Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Just wanted to do a quick after the match review on the Falcon 9XC by Live Free Armory. Those of you that shoot competitions, you know that a gun usually shows its true colors at the stages and at the matches that we go to shoot. That's when your gun will really show whether it is something that's going to run or it's going to have issues. And it just seems to be magnified so much more when you're in the competition world or in that competition space. The cons of a gun usually come out a lot heavier and hotter. So that's what we're going to talk about. What did I see in my first match with the Live Free Armory Falcon 9XC? I've made a lot of videos on this. If you want to go check them out, please go and do that, where I talk more about the specs of the gun and what I've done to it and kind of where it is today. But we're going to talk more about the performance from the match and what I've learned about the gun. Maybe some updates I might do to the gun. This may be the last video, tabletop video, you see on this gun for a while, because I've got other guns I want to review and talk about, and I want to get to the range and want to get to the competition space to shoot. So I really like where this gun is at for the most part, and we'll go into that as well. But so I'm not really worried about going further with it. I like where it's at. So far it's going to have a home here with me, and I'm going to keep it because I like it that much. And so I'm pretty happy with it. And spoiler alert, this gun did really well at the range on the competition day. I'll tell you, let's go ahead and tell you some things that happened with the gun that's negative, but it's not really the gun's fault. There was twice during the match that while I was holding the gun, I think it's this hand, that while the gun is shooting, I come up and I bumped the slide release as the slide is reciprocating. So I must bump that with this hand while the gun's under recoil. There was twice where I bumped it because I try to get a high grip on the gun as high as possible. I think this might have bumped that, and it locked open the slide after the first round or two. And I think it's a grip issue. One of the main reasons why I think that is because it was right after a reload. I would go to reestablish my grip, and that's when it would happen, is like in the first one or two shots after a reload. So I think I was just gripping a little too high here, and when I gripped the gun and closed the slide, this other hand was bumping that up and actually locked the slide open. No big deal. I just hit the magazine to make sure it was seated, and hit the magazine release and dropped it, and it went back to running again. So it's not something that really was detrimental to my match. But yes, it was an issue. It did happen twice, but it's on me, not the gun. And being that I tend to do that with this gun, I may look into, this is easy enough to take out, I may take this out, and I may take a little bit off this release on the bottom, just so it's, because it was barely locking open. Like, it wasn't locking fully open like this. It was just barely hitting the bottom of the slide. So I was just barely bumping this up. And I think if I took just a hair of metal off that, let's show you when it's dropped. If I took just a hair of metal off this bottom ridge, see, it's got this protective polymer area that's supposed to keep that from happening, but you find that the metal actually rides quite a bit above that bump, and so you can still hit it fairly easy. So I may see if I want to take off a little bit of metal down here just to keep that from happening in the future matches, because it does cost you a second or two, which can cost you possibly a position in the matches, and it's just not something you really want. There's no reason for that metal to go that low really anyway, because when you hit it, you're coming down. You don't really use the lock open feature as much, and even with the metal sheared off a little bit on bottom, you could still do the same thing. It would just be a little bit higher. It just wouldn't be quite as big to hit, okay? So I'm thinking about doing that, but I'm still going to contemplate on whether I want to or just kind of work on my grip. I'm not sure yet. Being that I don't shoot this pistol a lot, that's what kind of makes me want to alter the slide release, because I don't shoot this pistol a lot, and if I'm doing it with this pistol, I probably won't train that out of me on this pistol, because I pretty much shoot a bunch of different pistols, and it's just not worth me taking the time to train on this one pistol. So I may do that and I may not. Still thinking about it. But yeah, I'm just letting you know that that was an issue for me. That is an issue for many shooters that I see on the internet, shooting Glocks and things like Glocks. Sometimes it's other guns that have the same issue. I don't have that problem on, say, the P10. I just don't have that issue. It looks like the slide release is buried a little bit behind the polymer a little bit better, so I don't have to worry about that issue with the P10C. but it does happen with this. It happened twice, and it also happened twice when I was doing a few quick shots at the range the other day with a buddy. I did it twice for the first time, and I thought, oh, that might be a problem. And sure enough, at the range, at the competition, it happened twice as well, which is actually, to be honest with you, beyond my expectations of what, might occur with this gun, because this is barely broke in. Like I said, I barely had maybe 100 rounds through it before I took it to competition. And so being that it barely had 100 rounds through it, I think that it handled itself fantastically. There was no jams, no problem with ejection, no problem with cycling. The gun ran great. Another negative that I ran into at the match, which is not the gun's fault, again, this is my fault, user error and human-induced problems, but I noticed I sighted this gun in at 10 or 11 yards is how I sighted it in, and this gun was shooting up close. It was shooting about an inch low, and there's this fine point where I kind of want a gun to shoot a little bit low at 10 yards, and so I kind of sight them in that way. Well, I noticed that I may have sighted this one in a little too low because I didn't reevaluate zero at 25 yards like I do on some guns. And what happened was I had this sighting in a little bit too low at 10 yards, and the gun was shooting the bullet was going down instead of up. I like where it's hitting about half an inch low at 10 yards, and then it's usually about dead on at 25. This one was shooting about an inch low at 10 yards, and as you got to 15, 20, it was shooting 2-3 inches low. That did cost me some accuracy on stage 6 of the match, and although in the video, I'm going to put the video on here, the stages are not in order, and you probably won't be able to tell where I did it, but it was on one of those targets that are blacked out on bottom, and so you can hit the upper half of the target, but the lower half is considered misses. And I did make a few misses, even though they were A-zone shots, because they were in the black, they were misses, and that did cost me some time. So I did go to my range bag in between stages and actually clicked up 6 clicks to get it about an inch higher, and that did help the rest of the match, although I think I still need to check zero and make sure that we're hitting where we want to be. But overall, the gun was extremely accurate. Like I said, that was just a sighting issue. It was my fault. It did cost me quite a few seconds, and I had one of the worst stages I've ever had as far as down points. My timing was good. My accuracy was good. It was where I was pointing just a couple inches below, but it just cost me because of the way the targets were set up. Okay, guys, so I just kind of want to let you know that. So, and I would like to show, I may show you guys kind of what happened there as far as that goes, a little more detail. But yeah, the gun shot fairly accurate. I noticed that because Glock triggers are a little bit harder for me to shoot, I wasn't shooting. There was occasionally times where I think I was pulling a little low on the gun, or pulling a little bit with the trigger, just not having quite as consistent groups. But overall, I had some very fantastic groups with this gun when I was doing it right. There was just a few little shots that I felt like I had threw off because the trigger's a little bit harder to shoot than what I'm used to. Very good trigger. Is starting to break in even better. The gun's breaking in even better. It's a little bit smoother than it was just a few days ago before I shot. And so, yeah, I think we get about 800, 900 rounds on this gun. It's going to be extremely smooth and broken in compared to what it was initially. And so that's what I kind of want to do over the course of a couple years, is try to get quite a bit of rounds on this thing. But we got other guns to shoot, and want to let y'all know, though, very happy with the way it performed at the range. Everything that happened was my fault. There's nothing that hindered me from this. This gun didn't hinder me at all from really posting some good scores. The only thing that hindered me was the way I gripped the gun and how I'd sighted in the gun. Besides the trigger just being a little bit harder to shoot than what I'm used to, and that could be my only complaint about it. That was the only thing that I would say. And when you get used to, let me say this real quick, when you get used to triggers like this on this masterpiece, it just becomes really hard to, it's a little bit harder, I guess, when you're spoiled like that, to shoot triggers like this. But still a great trigger. And really barely held me back at all as far as the gun itself. The gun shoots super flat. I love the porting. This is actually how dirty it is after a match, just so you can see. If you can see in that comp a little bit, you can see the porting. There is some carbon, but there's nothing carbon's not hindering the slide movement at all. I could probably shoot this another 200 or 300 rounds before it would have to be cleaned, but it will get a good cleaning after. In the next couple of days, I just want to show you what it looked like after a match. Looks real good. The ports work great. The springs work great. Trigger works pretty good. You know, if I could just get used to shooting a Glock trigger, I would be a lot better with this gun. Probably put this in somebody's hands that shoots Glock a lot, and they would probably show me up all day long. So I know a good Glock shooter would probably love this gun, especially if they felt the recoil from these ports and this comp on this thing. It's just a fantastic shooter overall. And yeah, we're going to decide what to do about the slide release, whether we want to mod it a little bit to fit my style of grip and shooting. I'm going to decide that in the next few days, but I wanted to show you where we was at with this gun. If you have any questions, please leave them below. Please leave comments. Please like and subscribe. That really helps me with the channel, helps me give you more content. Yeah, please leave questions below. And God bless you. Have a great day, and I'll catch y'all up more later on what we do with this gun. But like I said, we're probably going to move on to some other guns, so this will be the last time that you see it in a while. But the gun performed great at the range. I'm very happy with it. For $600, this was one of the best investments I've ever made for that price in the gun world. So very happy with it, especially the way it performs. At what level it performs for the price point. That's what this is all about. So God bless. Have a great day.